I can feel the passion. I can feel the energy. I can feel.
Emiliano,
We're talking to Emiliano.
who coaches F1 drivers and space astronauts.
Established performance coach and sports trainer.
And now is a full-time performance coach to F1 racers.
Please welcome Emiliano Ventura.
I love what I do is because I have these rare opportunities to see in a daily basis something that people only witness once in a lifetime. I had an athlete that crashed at 260 kPa, and this blocked his vision. He was unable to move his eyes. I was very curious to meet Michael Schumacher. He was already 7 times world champion. He was this legend among motorsports. And I was there. I went straight to him, and he just raised his hand and said, "Oh, don't speak with me," and left.
You are always thinking of improving, and you work with like some of the top performers on the planet. Like, how do you stay on the top of your game?
So I'm the guinea pig for the things I do. I need to be the guy that knows how things work in the human body and can test and can show and can improve how things are going. I always monitor myself with different gadgets and bio devices and things like this. But at the same time, my routines, the way I live my life, it's on the way that I feel the energy and I feel the positive energy that guides me through the day and every day and through the year. So to find the balance between the several components that in my life, it's what I need to transmit and what I need to test and to know that's really working. At the same time, you're testing new ways of training, new ways of developing your mind, new ways to work your body and things like this. And because I'm not a young kid anymore, and with aging comes other challenges and comes other phases in terms of longevity. And I think then you don't think only in lifespan, you think in health span. How you can maintain your health through the years, your energy through the years, your performance, human performance through the years. And of course, that includes sleep, includes nutrition, includes training, includes the mental area and your mental health to be there on the top, includes several areas that you need to be careful and you need to interact and to know when you pass this information, that is something that you feel it and you know that is working in a way that is very positive also for you, and it's much more easier for you to transmit to others.
I love that. And I also see, for example, as leaders, and I think that's something that leaders can learn is like, how can they first be at their best, work on themselves, so that also they can then bring the best out of their teams. So I see a parallel there also.
Yes,
with
exactly,
with
because
leaders.
it's in terms of comparison of what you want from your team or from your athletes, it needs to be an extension of yourself. It needs to be an extension of what you think and what you feel and what you believe. And this belief is what's going to transmit all the things that you want to transmit. Not in terms of only teaching, but showing what is possible to be done. And the way that you do things in your daily life, the way you prioritize your habits, your healthy habits, your behavior, and they become a challenge and they become a transformation in you. This shows to your team, to your athletes, that's something that can be applied, and that's something that works in a proper way.
What a beginning, Emiliano. So good.
It is what it is. It is like this.
Good. And now I'm curious, where did you learn, or where did you get inspiration for your models of human performance?
So I was passionate about human performance since the early times of when I was a teenager. I was an athlete myself, and I was always looking for ways to improve my own performance. In early ages, I realized that I was not going to be the world top athlete or the world toppest Olympic champion, and I realized that my dream, my goal, my love was human performance, and always also to extract that in other human beings and to understand how it could be working. So I started in an accidental way to learn about sports science, to learn about medicine, to learn about religion, And things like this helped me to understand how the human body could perform at their best. But then when I started to travel a lot and when I started to come to Asia, I realized that was a different kind of human performance built in this part of the world, with monks, with the martial arts, with things that were so interesting from the human performance perspective, that I decided to embrace it and to learn it and to live it and to understand how it was built. So I went to China for training centers with Shaolin monks. I went to Tibet to meditate with Tibetan monks, and I was learning in every culture, in every step, how this could be built and how could we extract something from that. I was in Myanmar for a month and a half, developing and learning, and every moment I realized that something could be add on and something could be transversal in the way that human performance was built, and these amazing athletes that were coming from Russia or were coming from China or coming from US or were coming from France, they were built and they were transformed in something that was, in terms of human performance level, outstanding, winning medals at the Olympic Games, be able to perform off Cirque du Soleil, for example, and be able to do special forces in places like Israel, that now is I'm talking about many countries that are very involved in the ways they developed these skills in humans, and they developed the human performance at levels that are unthinkable for common humans. And in the last few years, when I was in F1, I realized that also X Games, the radical sports, the extreme sports, were performing in a level that was impressive as well. So one of my last editions was to understand how these sports, these extreme sports, were acting in the human body and the human mind, and how this could be also added, how this could be performing and could be something that we could work on, or could we understand or help to improve. And all of these things, it's all, in the end, it's all human performance, and is always taking your body, your mind to the limits, and to explore the limits of the human condition, and to understand how this can be made in a possible way. If it's talent, if it's work, if it's a combination of both, and how this could be possible, and how you can find so many athletes in so many corners of the world, so many points of the world, with outstanding performances and outstanding capabilities, I would say.
Is there any that surprised you during this journey?
Yes, especially here in Asia. It's the power nowadays. It's very common to speak about the mindfulness and meditation and things like this. And for me, it was something that I was understanding as the capacity of the human mind to release everything and to be stuck in an empty space, to be cultivating and be able to produce the nervous system, the autonomous nervous system, to go in a parasympathetic way, just to be a little bit physiological. But then I understood that was something very physiological, even in the mechanical point of view. The monks in Tibet, for example, the Tumo meditation that they do, it really increases body temperature, and they achieve they have high fevers when they are creating illusions in their minds because of this fever. And this comes from a mechanical point of view, from a mechanical movement of the bowels, of the internal organs, that creating friction, and these were increasing, and that's why they were able to meditate in the middle of the snow, in the high mountains, with low oxygen, disconnecting internal organs. And this physiology, the way that you understand how can be applied then and it can be transported then for other situations, for other competitions, for other athletes and things like this, gave me one idea that was surprisingly physical, even when we talk about meditation or mindfulness. And that for me was a big surprise, to understand that this was a physical exercise as well, not only a mental exercise. And this capacity they have, because it's very hard to maintain, for example, Tumo, it's very hard to maintain. You maintain 15, 20 minutes and you are completely destroyed. in terms of physical, in physical terms. And the way they transport this, because they don't have the opportunity to think in anything else besides the exercise and the breathing and the movements they are doing with the muscles in order to create this friction inside the body. And they don't have the opportunity and thinking of anything else. They are very focused and very concentrated in maintaining these cycles of movements. And then when you stop, then your mind understood that was in a moment that was empty, was just focused on that. And then the first thought that comes to your mind, the first things that comes to your mind, they are like a flush of thinking, of clarity. And this comes with a principle that was very physical. It was an exercise, and it was not something like relaxing and imagining the sky or your soul leaving the body and things like this. And this was a surprise for me and very interesting.
Wow, so fascinating, right? So do you remember a story of someone that went from extreme adversity to extreme success?
Yeah, we can speak about one of the cases. Like I said, I had an athlete that crashed at 260 kph and had a big had a problem in the seventh nerve of the cranium. And this blocked his vision. He was unable to move his eyes, and it was impossible in terms of in a medical way to predict any result that could happen. After the doctors first, they thought it was some blood clot in the brain because there was a dislocation of the left side through the right side of the brain. There was some blood inside. Then the blood disappeared, and he was still paralyzed. And then we thought that was some inflammation due to iron. This disappeared, and he was still paralyzed. At some moment, we thought that was nothing to do. It was nothing that was possible to be done in a medical way. We kept trying. We kept trying experimental things, different things. We went around the world. We crossed 17 countries looking for results and looking for experimental treatments. And in the meantime, always doing the recovery of the physiotherapy, because was many injuries connected. This was only the worst part. And it took him almost 400 days in terms of recovery, in terms of getting better. And finally, we got a treatment that worked with some injections directly in the brain of an experimental drug. And the eyes start to move slowly. And when he's seated for the first time back in the car, and he was back in racing, was a very, very big moment. It was a moment so big that the federation, international federation, all the athletes, in the first time he came back, all the athletes stopped before the first race starts. They put the car side by side, and they applaud the return of the driver, because it was a journey that was completely impossible to believe that was happening. But he kept working, and he kept developing, and in his own race of the World Championship in that year, he won it. And he won it from zero, from he was struggling, and that weekend he was able to create this environment, this strength, and in that moment that he passed for a situation that he was not able to drive in a road as a normal car, or he was not able to look at you without seeing two of you, and because the eyes were not moving, to a situation 1 year and a half after that he was back to a world championship winning a race was an incredible moment. So these athletes, they prove us that nevertheless, what's happening, it doesn't matter what people say to them. If they truly believe in something, they work for something, and anything is possible. And at that moment, you define that anything is possible, because they are able to prove us day by day by day that anything is possible. And these moments when you see that, and you saw all the people around, it was 50,000 people on the podium cheering, and was coming back for a victory, and with this little son on his lap, and was an unforgettable moment, and probably one of the best moments in the history of motorsports in the world.
Wow, I'm speechless.
But sports has this capacity to inspiring us in these moments, and to inspiring through moments that we see things that we think are not possible to happen, and we see them happening, being world records or coming backs from adversity. Sports is being showing us in numerous situations that if we take these lessons for our daily lives, for our jobs, for everything, and that what they are able to do, this resilience that I consider probably one of the key elements of any successful athlete, this resilience that they can bring with them, it's probably what make them champions and what make them unique individuals in this world. And they have so much to teach us, and I have the opportunity to deal with them for so many years, and to see so many of these situations, that it's an honor. It's like a pleasure to be there. And when I say that I love what I do, it's because I have these rare opportunities to see in a daily basis something that people sometimes only witness once in a lifetime. And I have the opportunity to witness and re-witness these things. And every time I feel the privilege to be there and to be part of these stories.
Wow, it's really a privilege. Yeah. And also I'm very happy that you're sharing that, because I know sports can inspire not just like individuals, but also companies on how they can improve. You mentioned about one of the key elements is resilience. Like, if you look at the top athletes that you had contact with, what has been the patterns or the traits that you've seen that these athletes, they have, that really separates them from the rest in terms of human performance?
Yes, it's very, there are some traits that are very common. So I used to say, if you put the top athletes in the same car, they will do the same time. They will do exactly the same lap time. And when you talk about motorsports, you talk about a machine that goes around the circuit, right? In every corner, if he goes too fast, he goes out of the corner. He cannot handle this machine. It can only handle until one speed to make a 90 degrees corner. If you go slower, you lose time. If you go fast, you will lose the vehicle. You will lose the opportunity. So all these machines, they have an optimal speed in an optimal lane to do every circuit. So if you put whatever driver you put in a car, it will do basically the same time. And that's why you see in Formula One, for example, the first ones being separated by a millesime of a second and 3 millesimes of a second, because they know that this can be done. Okay, and this capacity they have make them one of the best guys in the world. But then they do more than this. They have the capability to sit in the car, to go out and tell the engineer, if you change a little bit these wheels and you face them forward, or if you grease the rear wing, the car will go faster. So this capacity of feedback, this understanding of the machine, it gives them, for the brands, the value that they need to develop this machine that is already almost impossible to drive, that is faster than a human eyes, that is faster than reflexes, and things like this. And these individuals, they have the capacity to sit on and to come up from the car, come out of the car and say, okay, change this, and this goes faster. But these traits that you say that they are common, for example, the knowledge they have about the sport, the knowledge they have about the profession, about the cars, is fundamental. Of course, the will, the desire they have to win, the competitiveness they have, that they apply, is also very common between them. And these things that they put together, they face together with the resilience, I thought, because this resilience is probably what makes them last, what makes them endure, and makes them be able to every weekend, every time, to come back and to face these disruptions that they have to face, and the pressure and everything. And then the right attitude. And the right attitude comes with work, with hard work, with lowering down your ego, being capacity to look upon yourself, to analyze yourself, to have a self-observation, a self-evaluation, and to know your margin and to set your goals. And this right attitude, I would say, the will or desire to compete, the wisdom and the resilience are the main points that I can find in every athlete of the top, motorsports or not motorsports. And these things are what they make them what they do and make them champions, I would say.
And that resilience, do you think is something that it's born? Is something that it can be developed? What's your thoughts on resilience?
So for me, resilience is something that you can find in everything. Mm-hmm. Even in this table, you can find resilience. And resilience is something that we define in a very specific way. And this resilience comes, for example, with capacity to absorb any disruption, capacity to deal with external pressures. If the capacity this table has to deal with external pressures and disruptions, it makes them resilient. Also the flexibility. So the capability the table has to return to its normal shape, to keep his normal shape, to keep his structure, besides these pressures, this flexibility is one of the other qualities of resilience. And this is very, very important. Then you have this margin. So it's how do you continue to operate besides you are in your limit, closer to your limit, okay? And this optimal operation, this optimal capacity to perform in your limit makes the difference. Because if I'm putting this table under a very high pressure or conditions or whatever, and it keeps its function, and its function is proper, this is the definition and resolution of resilience. And the last thing, it will be tolerance. And tolerance is how you decline, okay? After everything it's done, after everything it's not possible to handle it, it is a fast decline or a slow decline of functions. And in every athlete is every high performer is a slow decline of functions. It's not a high decline of functions. So it means that he's able, even when he's braking, it's hard to break immediately. It takes time to break. It takes time to disrupt these functions and to be inoperable. Okay, so if I put this capacity, flexibility, margin, and tolerance together, I have resilience. And I can put that into work. I can put that into training. I can put that in a daily perspective of everything that we do and transmit these values, transmit these capacities for him in order to know that he's creating resilience, that is becoming a more resilient individual, a more resilient athlete, because I'm able to identify in the structure what makes that capacity or that capability.
Give me an example of that.
I can give you a very quick example.
This is so fascinating, the topic of resilience.
Imagine you are in a race, right? And you can see, I can pull out a race from Baku 3 years ago from Lewis Hamilton, and it was raining. Okay, it was raining. He went to the pit box. He put the rain tires, and he came out. Okay, he came out and stopped raining. All the other cars and went to change to dry tires. He decided to continue on rain tires. There's a problem with rain tires. They don't work. They are too soft if the weather is dry. And they're going to start to disappear. It's going to start to lose the tires. It's going to start to lose the car. So in the last few laps, in the last 10 laps of the race, he was in front of the race, but he was defending his position and he had no opportunity to come back to the pit lane to change the tires because he was about to lose the position. So, and he decided to continue until the end and to fight until the end with guys that were with slick tires, so tires made for dry weather behind him. The car was slipping everywhere. And his ability to perform, to maintain the lap times were incredible. Okay, he was operating under, for example, he was operating under this capacity to deal with this high pressure, to deal with these disruptions. He was able to keep the lap times. The flexibility was there. He was able to keep the lap times together. And he was able even to find new trajectory. He knew that every lap, the tire will be worse and worse and worse. Okay, so he knew that the lap times will decrease by every lap until the end. So he found ways to deal with that, changing the trajectory, sometimes cutting a corner. And you get a penalty if you cut a corner, except if your lap time is worse than the lap time before. Because it means that you didn't won time, you lost time with that. Mm-hmm. But he knew that that will happen anyway because the tires were degrading. So he created the strategies in his head that was able to keep him in front and to keep the race lines and cutting corners and things like this that was able to maintain him in front. And when the car was not able to deal with anything else, he was just holding on. So the decline was very slow. He was holding on with everything, closing the gap, and he won the race. In the end, he won the race and when the car stopped in the podium, the tires were not even rain tires anymore. was just the inside of the structure of the metal that was covering the tires that was there. But he was able to show his resilience in 10 laps in a very practical way that was dealing with disruptions, had the flexibility to maintain, have the tolerance to keep there, and have this margin to operate in these limits. And everything was there. It was training of resilience, put it into practical terms. And that's in the way that we deal with practical situations. When we talk about resilience, it's not only to keep your training and everything. Sometimes in very practical situations of life, you can see resilience, and you can see how resilient is a person because he's able to deal with adversity in a way that keeps him performing in the way that is possible to perform. It doesn't need to be at the top, it needs to maintain you and the goals that you need to settle, and you need to believe that if you are doing all the things that are correct, you are being resilient, and that gives you the result that you can have, the best result that you can have under your conditions.
Wow. So what I love is about also what you mentioned is about resilience is how you are able to handle when you go above your limits, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like that situation. But when you were telling me that story, the amount of details that it's there in that story that you just told me, and everything at 300 kilometers hour, So these guys, they have to take so many decisions. They need to handle so much stress, be so focused. How do you help them with this?
So, like I said, you need to deconstruct everything that it needs, all the parameters that are necessary in able to perform in a car. So, the physical part, or yes, the mental part, or the energy that you need to have, how you deal with the temperature, how you deal with the race strategy, how you deal with everything. You need to deconstruct these things, and you need to put them into practical terms. You need to put in exercises that in a daily basis, they are working these topics, and they are working in different ways that you can see that they can apply the same items, the same conditionings that you can find in a racetrack or in competition. So when you build up a plan for an individual, you take in consideration everything that competition has. From the adrenaline, from the mental struggle, from the physical capacity, from the interaction with your team members, from your approach and your tactical approach, if it's passive, if it's aggressive, everything is taken into consideration. Your lifestyle is taken in consideration. And you need to put everything together in simple terms, in simple ways that when he's on the gym, he's working a part of that. When he's on eating, he's working part of that. When he's in a meeting, he's working part of that. And everything that you need to take into consideration is put it in every action that you do in a daily basis. Because you don't train when you are in the gym. You train 24 hours a day. You are responsible for your mindset 24 hours a day. And when you live these habits and they generate behaviors, because you're introducing habits, you're introducing decisions, you're introducing ways of thinking, and this generate behaviors that is going to lead you in a way that it doesn't matter where you are. The response, the capacity of you to respond that, it will always be the same. So when we talk about training, we don't talk about the stimulus. I don't talk about the way I put the exercises. I talk about the way they respond to my exercises. And the way they respond, it needs to match all the things I want them to work in competition, all the things that I want to see in competition. If I want to see resilience, it needs to be there. If I want to see knowledge, it needs to be there. If I want to see this capacity to be competitive, it needs to be there. This self-knowledge and self-evaluation, it needs to be there. So it doesn't matter, I will change your stimulus, I will change your training in a very high, different positions, in very different ways, but always getting the same answer. And I know that it doesn't matter if it's going to appear in competition, I'm going to have this answer because he's able to deal with different stimulus and is able to put this answer there. And that's the goal when we're talking about athletes and the way we work with these capabilities. We put in everything. That's the way you build things. You need to construct them, and you need to do baby steps. In life, it needs to be like that. We don't achieve anything by taking a big step. We go small, and by details, we get there. And once we realize we are there, and it's like this in any competition, in any sports, we're gonna get there anyway because we build up in some strong foundations that enable us to perform at a level that becomes very natural. The way they understand what sports and competition is, and the way they just need to enjoy it because they know they are ready. They know what they have to do. It's sports have this capacity to teach us that your individual responsibility is part of a collective task. For example, when the first time I went to Formula One in Monaco was back in 2012, I believe, and I was very curious about being in Monaco, and I was very curious to meet Michael Schumacher, and Michael Schumacher was coming back. He was at the age of 41. He was already 7 times world champion. He was this legend among motorsports. And I was there to understand, and I was very curious to see how to meet him and to learn something from him. And I was dressed as a Red Bull, and I saw him on the pit lane after the qualifying. And he made the pole position at the age of 41. He made the pole position in Monaco. He was one of the best performance he had when he came back. And I went straight to him, and he just raised his hand and said, "Oh, don't speak with me," and left. And I was a little bit sad about the situation. I was a little bit mad. I said, "Why this guy made this? It doesn't make sense. I'm part of other team. Probably I could have something to tell him that was a message from my team or something like this," and he just ignored me and said, "Bye-bye, I don't want to speak with you." So the race weekend passed, and Sunday night we were in a thing that was called Amber Lounge. It's it's like a club. It's like a party after the race, and every race you have this small party for everyone involved. And I entered the Amber Lounge, and Michael was sitting in a corner having some drink, and he said like this and said, "Hey, come here." He didn't know me from anywhere, and I approached him and said, "What do you have to say to me in qualifying that you approached me?" And I was very surprised. First of all, he didn't know me from something, and then the weekend passed. We were talking something that was Saturday, and then we had all the things in Saturday. We had the race on Sunday. It was Sunday night, and this guy called me and said, "Okay, it's time now. Tell me what you have to tell me." And we sit together. We speak a lot. We spoke a lot about everything that was involved in racing. And he told me, "Tomorrow, I'm going to have a meeting in my factory." At the time, there was not, like today, there was not Zoom meetings or things like this or things online. And he told me, "I go to the factory tomorrow, and in the lobby of the factory, I'm going to call everyone. Everyone of the factory comes to the lobby. and I will going to make a draft. I'm going to make a briefing of my weekend. And during this briefing, I will call the people that were involved in the success and insuccess things of the weekend. And they need to share with me, with everyone, what they will do to improve these things. Could be the gearbox or the brakes or the strategy of everything. So he was promoting these meetings because I asked him how was possible for him to contribute, how was possible for a team to receive all the inputs, because it was too much information. How he was seeing the development of Formula One is, and he said, this is fundamental. We need to be sitting together, to have responsibility. Everyone needs to have their own responsibility, but also I need to say thank you for the people that did a good job in front of everyone. And I do both. I say thank you for some people, and I call on other people and I say, okay, we need to sort this out. If you or someone else wants to work into this and help him, he needs help with this guy needs help with this guy needs help with this. This guy worked very well, thank you. This guy worked very well, thank you. So this culture of responsibility, this culture of also to be able to say the good things and the bad things directly, the feedback that was able to perform, it teach me during Formula One that this is something fundamental to achieve success. And the way you keep remembering, the way you keep in mind all the steps and you prioritize what needs to be done, the way you remember me and I said, okay, you're not priority right now. If I get there, you'll have opportunity to speak with you. The way you prioritize, but the way you don't forget every point or everything that you need to know and you need to add, it's something that Formula One as a top game, as in the edge, and works on the edge in terms of information or the way we deal with information.
So I think there's so much to learn from the sports. So, like, what do you think are the three things that individuals they can apply from let's say from F1 in their daily lives, in our daily lives, in order to perform better?
The first thing is to be able to adjust and correlate and be calm in a high stress and high performance and a high pressure environment. This capacity of you to be calm and to think positively in this environment is something that we can easily learn from Formula One. The other thing is about teamwork. And teamwork is about personal responsibility, collective task. This for me, it's very important. I cannot help the other one if I'm not doing my thing first. And when Formula One, when you are there, it's something very funny. When the cars are inside of the box, right? I'm as a trainer, I was a trainer there. I'm as a trainer, I entered the box. And my function is to put normally a TV screen and give them the bottle of water, okay? To the driver when the car enters. I have to do these two things. But I have the mechanics working by my side, in the front wheel and the left wheel and things like this, and they are working now. And sometimes you see a guy that is changing a wheel or something, and a screw or something fell down and went under something. And you realize that he didn't realize what he fell down or what it is. But you cannot help him. You cannot go there and pick the thing and give to him. You cannot do this. First, you need to make sure that your task is completed, everything is correct, you're not interfering in anything else, and it's his responsibility, okay? If he's creating a problem or he's not able to solve it because he has another thing under his arm and he's prepared for that, or he has a way to do it, then if your task is done, you can go. And these small things, this personal responsibility, I have to do my task first and be responsible for that. And then I can go and see if someone else needs help. And I cannot interfere. I need to trust my teamwork. I need to trust my team. That result can come with something that comes by the individual first and by the collective after. So, and you learn this in a daily basis, and you see how productive it becomes, how effective it becomes. And then you understand that, okay, probably he already knows that something like this happens because it happened in the past, and he takes something from and you were just distracting everyone, and you were just creating a problem. So to have these small things that you can apply in a daily basis, it's fantastic, of course. The third one I would say that is how you know how you deal with several different parts of the world, several different conditions, several different setups, several different cultures, several different people around you, and how you are able to isolate yourself. You are able to contribute, but you are able to take care of you no matter what. Okay, and this is something that if I don't take care of me personally, I'm not speaking in a work environment. So I'll say it in a personal way. In a personal way, how can I prioritize my things, and I can prioritize my time? It's something that is very, very strong in Formula One. It's not only for the driver. It's to learn, for example, to say no. It's learning to say no to distractions, to learn to say no to social media, to the cell phone. How I can really be me, how can I really maintain my capacity to have my own time, my own priorities, and to understand what gives me energy and how I can deal with that besides everything else. It's very difficult when you are in the middle of China, when in all the conditions and people, or when you have 360 requests for interviews and things like this, and the drivers are able to say no. More often they need to say yes, and to understand the necessity of the no word, the necessity of creating your own time, your own priority is something that is invaluable, and is something that really helps you to achieve other levels of performance, I'll say.
So good.
But it's the way that this environment is. I started to say that is a bubble, okay? But this bubble is very intense.
Yes.
And it moves around everywhere. And people are traveling a lot. And people in the end of the year, they have 200 flights, they have 60 countries visited, they have so many things, and you can see if they are able to perform under these conditions, if they are able to be individuals that are contributing and producing results, it's much more easier in the daily life, in a daily basis. So you can only learn with this. You can only understand that no matter what's in the environment or the ecosystem you are in, you are able to perform if you do things right, and if you do things small with small steps, and if you introduce these values, and if you introduce the right things, you are able to perform for sure.
I can feel the passion. I can feel the energy. I can feel.
It's passion, because in the end of the day, I'm about to go to Australia for a couple of weeks, and then to Macau, and then I go to Abu Dhabi to Formula One, and it's going to be 3 hard weeks, because I have a kid, I have a family, I have my wife, and so I need to really make of this time something productive, something good. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense for you to go. So you need always to find something that builds up on you, that gives you something for the future. And this purpose, this goal that you find in every way, needs to come with passion. It only comes with passion. If you don't have passion for what you do, you don't even have the energy to do everything that you have to do, and find some reasons to do this, some reasons to do this besides what you already did 35 times or 25 times. So that is going to a racetrack. And this build-up, this construction of a road that always find new challenges, new ways, new reasons to do what you do, at what makes sense of your profession, or makes sense of your job. And that's it's passion.
So if you summarize, what are the 3 things that companies can learn from the F1 that they can implement?
I think the first thing is cultural, building people, not value. And that's one of the things that is very important. And when we are taking care of consideration of any organization, for example, in Formula One, this is one of the things that are necessary. How we build the people, how we build these values, how we build the way that are working, it's more important that the value of the people are. I'll say that this is probably the first thing. The other thing is how you deal with information, how you deal with data, okay? How you put data into your service, how you use the data that's strictly necessary in you to give a better output. And this for companies nowadays there's a lot of data and ways to deal with data. The Formula One teaches that data is fundamental, but it's fundamental the data that we don't see, okay? The data that is given not from your eyes or your perspective of your gut or your intuition is the data that you cannot achieve by any other means. And in Formula One is very good to doing this. Strategy comes from something that you see and you can predict and then can take in consideration, and everything that you don't see comes from this data. But if you can see, you can trust in your intuition, and that's why it differs the strategy from one team to the other and things like this. The other thing is how teamwork works, how you create teamwork, how you create organization that can build a strong teamwork that is fast, efficient, and is able to perform under 2 seconds, changing 4 tires with 10, 20 guys, and how this is achieved, okay? And this is achieved by many repetitions, by many hard work in the meantime, by personal responsibility. And this is achieved by people knowing exactly and feeling exactly what's the price to pay in terms of failing, in terms of not to be able to perform in the exact moment. And I think these 3 things that companies can use from Formula One, for example, there are many others, of course, but they can use and they can apply in a very simple way, and then can use this to create the dynamics inside of the corporation and inside of your structure.
I really love it, and I love specifically from F1 what you're saying is the ability to generate like information, but then it's about taking decisions fast. So you generate all this data, and this data is all feedback, and then you are always improving and making sure that you have the right people that know what to do and take the decisions fast.
Yes. But it's the same in military ground,
yes.
For example.
Yeah.
Is the same. And all these things and the way that you build up this is not the way it's put it into practical mode, because in practical mode it goes like a train and it's inside of the carrier and it goes straight. But it's the way you put these things from the beginning, and you create the structure that is able to produce. And then you need to know that if I have the correct people, if I don't have the correct people, to be able to change immediately. If I have the correct people, how I can push for the personal responsibility, how can they contribute to the rest, how can they deal with everything, all the information that is there. And all these things, it's what makes a Formula One team be on the top of the game.
I love it. And I could continue here for hours talking with you.
Yes, it's true. Me too. It's wonderful to be able to share all these things. I think it's a different perspective of people see from motorsports and the way that it correlates with the rest of our lives.
Well, we're coming to the end, and the last question is, people ask you a lot of questions, but what is one question that normally people don't ask you and you would love to answer?
I'll say that, what's the downside? What's the price to pay? And these things, it's very fun always to talk about the good things and the bright side or the light in the structure. But what is the downside? What is the price to pay? What is the things that you need to be able to give back, to let it go, in able to be there, in able to perform. And nowadays, when you talk about Formula One, we're talking about 24 events in 2024. We're talking about several trips around the world. We're talking about many countries, many cultures, many times sitting on an airplane, many times sitting and eating different foods, different things. And what's the impact of that in your health span, in the way that you're living, in the way that your longevity, in the way that your hypergenetics, so the way you treat your genes, how this is going to impact your life in the future. And it's some of the things that we still understanding, some of the things in terms of immunity, in terms of physiology, in terms of medical things that is a price also to pay, but some things are very obvious and you feel it in a daily basis and you have to pay that price. I'm gonna be 1 month without my son and my wife, and I'm gonna be traveling around the world. I'm gonna still be doing what I love, but I still lose a lot. And at some point, you have this balance in your life that you need to correlate. Okay, what do you want more? What makes sense for you at that moment, at that single time of your life that can generate you more happiness, or it can generate a better you in the future? And this question needs to be asked constantly. Okay? Formula One is losing personnel like never before, because of course the demands, the structures, the pressure, everything is becoming higher and higher and higher. But we also need to understand that if we create models that we can help people to do what they love, we also cannot forget that if I have an employee, if I have someone that just because he's doing what he loves, is able to do everything, it doesn't give me the right to ask anything from him, just because it's a dream job. Okay, so and I think some of the things they need to be settled, and some of values need to come from the companies themselves, from the teams themselves, and we need to think about, okay, this is a dream job, but let's see what we can do to minimize, to help with the downsides, with the things that can really create a problem in your life or in your future. And we have this in many professions. So for sure.
Yeah, it's a tough one to balance that.
Yeah,
but what I like
exactly.
what you said is about you just need to keep asking that question and finding ways to find balance in both. Well, this was so good, so good. I love your energy, your passion, but also I'm so thank you so much for sharing so much about human performance, but also about sports that we all can learn and implement in our lives.
Yeah, thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you. It was lovely to be here. It's congratulations for your podcast. It's wonderful. I listen very carefully every episode. So and I think it's the level you're putting now. It's so big that it's going to be hard for you to keep up. But all the best, and for sure we'll see each other again soon.